internet. We are back. Kevin Johnson, Entrepreneurship. I really hope that you people look at this and you find joy in it, that you find something useful. Like I did, I will testify. This helped me. And I can prove it. I can show you with statistics. So Kevin, you're welcome back, mate. I understand we're talking about GRO, grow as you call it. And,
yes.
All over to you. Thanks.
Well, thanks very much, Chris. Well, I'm sure those who have been following us have seen that we've obviously used this particular mindset on numerous occasions. But today, I really just want to go a little bit deeper into this mindset. It is the final mindset, and it's freedom through grow. So for many years, I used to spell the acronym GROA, goals, results, obstacles, and actions. Until one day, someone said to me, why don't you just spell it properly? And instead of saying actions, why don't you say who, not how actions? So that made me, realize that it's not about the actions. If you're an ambitious entrepreneur, it's more about who's going to be helping you. So it's a psychological move in your head that you've got to move from thinking how, because that's how the brain works, but instead reprogram the brain to say who, not how. And that then enables you to seriously leverage. And then I'll mention some other benefits by the who as we go through it. Okay, so I've got a definition, and you don't have to write it down because it's actually at the bottom of this video in the PDF, but I've got a definition that acts as a compass for me to make sure that I'm staying on the money, so to say, when it comes to this acronym. So the definition goes like this. You now realize that your accelerated goals, results, revenue, whatever you want to call it, can be endlessly transformed through a process, of goals, results, obstacles, and who, not our actions. So that's really the definition that I measure myself against every quarter. I've got a 25-year vision, one quarter at a time. So when I was in a meeting a number of years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting a guy who participated at the 1972 Olympics as a cyclist for the USA. Christian, wonderful man. And he specializes in going around and helping big companies to set their goals. And obviously he uses everything that he used in all his training, all his preparation to go to the Olympics. And he said the following: what I discovered is that success doesn't come from will, talent, or tactics. He says, the winners know something everyone else doesn't. I went, wow, now I need to know what it actually is when speaking to this guy. And he turned around and he said, what we've discovered as winners is that the success is both a path and a process. So it's a path and a process rather than luck, talent, tactics, etc. Now, when I heard that from him, I thought to myself, wow, that's exactly what I've got. I've got a path and I've got a process. It's called grow. And then we went on further to discuss, the importance of muscle memory embedded within a path and a process. And it was actually fascinating listening to this guy, how they used to train at a high optimum level and how important muscle memory was. So that's the second point I just want to mention when it comes to this model called GROW. Okay, so what is GROW? We've gone over it a couple of times before. GROW, the G stands for goals. And we as humans are emotional first, then we use reason to make sense of our emotions. So therefore, that's the way the brain works. You've got to make sure that you're incorporating some questions then into when you're setting goals. So the two that I use, and I don't believe I will ever change from these two, because the first one is, what do you want? And the second question is, why do you want it? And what I've come to discover is, if I'm not using the previous mindsets that we've discussed, like the courage muscle, or I've set myself some goals on, let's say, the sales unit, and I'm wavering somewhat, what I always do is I revisit the why. The more powerful the why is, the more it'll motivate you to see it through. So, if you look at the courage muscle, for example, and you've got to go through a period where there's excitement and fear, if you see you're wanting to back off there, especially when you know you should be pushing forward still with it, then just go and revisit the why. And I always guarantee you that there you will find the solution to your problem if you're wavering. Okay, so that's the G, the goal. This acronym is also set out in a way, G.R.O.W, like the brain actually works. Because after all, if the brain works in a certain way, you might as well take advantage of it. Hence the reason the next one is results. Because you have a vision, which is a goal and a result, and then the negative setting, which is the O. Okay, so on the result side, what I always find is to use the negative and the positive. So what I do is I say to myself, what could the best result look like? I don't place any restrictions when defining what the best result could look like. And then just to reinforce what that best result is, I say to myself, what's the worst result now if I don't take action? Now, obviously, the worst result's going to sound like a negative compared to the best result. And that then motivates you to say, well, hold on. I should go and give this big goal, a go. Because why would I like to be settling for the worst result if I don't do it versus what I could achieve? So that's the R. Okay. Any questions so far on those two? Marvelous. Okay. Then we come to the obstacle. Okay, so the brain actually works like this. You have a vision, a goal, you see the result that you'd like to achieve. And then when you get to the obstacles, okay, especially if you're setting ambitious goals, you intend to be put off like, oh, I don't have the capability, or this is too overwhelming, or this is too much. And then that's the end of that little exercise of yours. You set the G, you set the R, but somehow you get chased away once you start to think of the obstacles. Now, I know this works for me, and I've tested this on people, is that if you come up with lots of goals and results, but every time, for whatever the reasons are, more often than not, when it comes to the obstacles, you just stop and you don't go any further. Be very careful, because then you might actually get to a stage of your life where the brain says, Quis, why bother to set goals and results? You never see it through. So instead of seeing the actual obstacles as a negative, okay, rather see it as a positive, because you should actually be grateful for the obstacles, as each one, after all, is a growth step, one obstacle at a time. So that's basically covers the obstacles. You can either see it as a negative or as a positive. But I can assure you now, when you start to get muscle memory using this acronym, you just then start noticing that you tackle those obstacles in a positive light rather than seeing it as a negative. Because if you see it as a positive, as a next step, then obviously you're going to start pushing through to achieve the result rather than just giving up. So obstacles are very important. So that's the any questions on that one, Quis?
Yes, the thought came to me, Kevin, that the obstacles, once you're succeeding in overcoming them, you should have more courage, because that will encourage you to not to fear them, but to see them just as what they are.
Oh yeah, very much. It's very much linked to the freedom through courage. No, absolutely. No, you're spot on there. Especially, you're not going to be using G.R.O.W to just set, mundane sort of goals that you're comfortable with. I mean, this G.R.O.W is really designed for ambitious goals, where you're going to have to use things like courage, use your time effectively, so on and so forth. Okay, so then we get to the who, not how. So we know we came about, well, that is no longer an A, it's a W, a who, not how action. And basically what that's all about when you come to that fourth component is that you must start now acquiring muscle memory to avoid the how trap. Because if you're setting ambitious goals, it means that you're going into a space where you're not 100% sure how to see that goal through. So therefore, the last thing you want to do is to be setting ambitious goals, ambitious results, looking at the obstacles, but then unfortunately, you fall back into the heart trap of asking yourself, how? Well, if you're going to be telling yourself too often, I don't know, well, then that's another good indicator that you might stop setting goals, or you might default back to setting just average goals. So you've got to make sure that you start acquiring the muscle memory to avoid the heart trap, and learn and acquire the muscle memory to reframe the question by asking, who's going to do it for me rather than how? And you will see, as you use the who more and more and more, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get your how done by the who you approached. Because in many cases, you'll get the who saying, leave it with me. I know someone that will do this very quickly for you. I know someone that will do it in a way that you probably haven't even thought of before. There's many things that come out of it, because at the end of the day, we all have our own talents. So who's are very important to accelerate growth? Who's are very important when you're tackling ambitious goals. And I can tell you, once you got the who rather than the how embedded in your life, I can tell you now, you'll never go back to defaulting to how all the time. And as I said to people, we're talking about ambitious goals here when it comes to how and who. I'm not talking about mediocre stuff. So that's really the 4 steps. Now, on a practical note, I set, as we've said before, I set my freedom goals once a quarter. I meet with the staff. They know what my goals are. They share theirs with mine. Then we use this formula also to see how we're progressing mid-quarter. And then on myself personally, when I play my rev games of 40 minutes, rest 10, 40 minutes, I do what you call a mini grow before I go into a game. In other words, the G and R. I quickly say to myself, what do I want? Why do I want it? And what type of results? So those are the ways that I use this formula. Okay. Some people like to use it every month. Some people look at it every Friday or set it every Friday for the following week. I believe none of that is wrong. What is wrong is not to have a process. And let's face it, if it comes to goals, I believe it's important to have a process and a plan, just like the Olympian cyclist said. So there we go on the actual formula itself and some best practices. One thing I would also just mention is that even when you're doing a short grow, is that when it comes to the result, always have sort of a number, because you know what the date or the due date is. It's going to be in 80 minutes time if you're playing a game, or if you're doing it quarterly, it's going to be in a quarter's time. But it's always a good thing to have sort of milestones, due dates, percentages and numbers, and measure your result off that, rather than to say, on sales, I'd like to see momentum at the end of this quarter. The brain doesn't actually like getting its head around statements like that. But when you say, I'd like to be on 10, then the brain starts to think differently. So, that's definitely a best practice as well when it comes to the results. Okay, so also what I want to mention is that there's less anxiety in your life when you live in your grow rather than spending too much time outside your grow. One thing I can assure you, if you've done grow, okay, for 2 quarters, 3 quarters, you will discover that your own creativity and your own intelligence is more than enough in your grow, rather than trying to find things outside your grow all the time. The grow will guide you as to what you now need to go and look for, whether it's a who or whether you need to do research on things. So the point I'm trying to stress there, okay, your intelligence, okay, and creativity lab, for want of a better word, lies within your grow rather than outside. And once you experience that as a human being, then you know for the rest of your life, you've got a timeless solution. Just stay inside your grow. So there we go. on the eighth freedom?
While you were talking, I was thinking, you cannot go to a woo, even if it's the best person for whatever you want to achieve, if you cannot answer the question, what do you want? Because that's what he's going to ask you. It's his first question is going to be, okay, what do you want from me? And you cannot answer that unless you've done the G and the R and the O.
Yes, yes.
And then when you've done that and you have clarity on that, it's quite easy to talk to the man and say, this is what I want. Can you help?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So the combination of the what do you want, the why, is what gets good who's to buy in. So those who's are actually delivering your how, if that makes sense. And they love why you actually wanting. I'd say probably that's the most important, because, if you go to them and say, well, what I'd like is I like a bit of training on Zoom. What do you want? I want a bit of training on Zoom. Yeah, we can help you. We specialize in that, says the company. But when you say to the guy, well, the reason being is I'm moving my whole business into Zoom, okay, and I want to have multiple breakout rooms, so on and so forth, then the guy reckons, as a supplier to helping Kevin, that's a great why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the extra mile with Kevin, because I want to be part of that journey. I don't hear many people speaking about Zoom like this man speaks about it, because you see, it's the why that he's buying into. That's the part that gets him excited. That's the part where he goes to his staff and says, don't muck up now with this project that we're working with Kevin. You're going to see what this guy's got planned inside Zoom. It's the why.
It's absolutely true. I have to wonder why I haven't seen this before. And I think many of us sitting here is going to say the same thing. Why haven't you? And I don't mean from the course, I mean from before. I'm in my 50s. You're a bit older than me, even if you look younger. It's logic. It makes sense.
Yeah. I basically say all the things that I've glued together is all timeless stuff. I think timeless. So my eyes are picking up timeless things. My ears are picking up timeless things. And there's many combos out there, but in the world of knowledge, the basic principles are all the same. The problem is that these organizations out there are all overdoing the simplicities to justify in their own minds that they could actually ask you to part with X amount of monies because, the manual is super thick. There's an extra 5 videos thrown in. It's almost like, you go to, in the military, you go to some of the units where they train you, etc., and then you become the real deal. And then you think to yourself, but those textbooks, half the stuff don't work. Or why did they bother to go through 22 chapters when it's the 4 chapters that are important, and they should have spent more time on the 4 chapters? So you find it in all institutions. You find, for example, a Bravo company at the infantry school. You speak to the guys there that went as teachers. They went in there to Bravo company having just qualified as teachers, whether they went to a college, they went to a university. So most of them have actually given class, as a student teacher at some school and that. Then they come there and then they realize, what are these to teach? I'm talking about the art of teaching. So what were those colleges and universities doing to these poor souls? So in a sense, the men had a differential advantage because the female teachers had to go and teach based on what they were taught at those same universities and those same colleges. You know, another example is the gym. You see all the advertising that goes on to get you into the gym. You see the 101 different exercises. And I had a friend that ran a big gym. He didn't own it, but he was managing it. And I said to him one day, you know, I come in here and I see all your instructors and that with new people have just come into the gym. Why the fuck do you use all these difficult exercises with these beginners? When you know, because you train with me sometime, there's about 10 exercises that you vary. That's all you need. And they're more effective than these weird exercises you're giving. And then one day he said to me, you know, we got to make them feel that without us, it's not going to work for them. Instead of someone sitting down and saying, look here, I can give you the exercises. I can help you with these exercises, these 10 or 12. No, the motivation's up to you to do it regularly. So you even get it in the gyms. And then you look at the diets. They give you diets that they know you cannot stick at, because the human body will not just be able to cope. So you go on these diets where you're really dieting the shit out of you. You lose a lot of weight. But in the interim, what's happening is your metabolism is slowing down because it can see there's not much food coming into the body. And then you go back to some normal diet, you slow down your metabolism, then you can't understand why you pick up that weight that you had and more. Because commercialism got hold of you. If you stay in your own grow, you will find out what works for you. And you will then discover, I don't need that hundreds and hundreds of hours of reading and listening to progress my life. I want to also say, because people need to know this, it's a lot easier to go into a Zoom meeting, just sit and listen, than it is to go into a Zoom meeting where it's expected of you to work. So, you know, if you go back to that example that I cited, where you're in the hut there, at Oudtshoorn, at the School of Infantry, or in the tent at Maleerskop, wherever you are in the military, you know, think of it when that sergeant is going to speak to you about a certain weapon. It's a waste of time if he's speaking to you about the wrong weapon. But let's just say, you know, he is going to be training you on the right weapon. Then he'll tell you a little bit, and then very quickly he'll show you the weapon. But you know, until you got muscle memory out there playing around with it, you know, you are actually not fit for purpose in using the weapon. Now, this that you're looking at here, G.R.O.W, is exactly the same. Get it down onto paper, think it through, get someone to help you, and then spend the bulk of the time in making it happen. Rather than, oh, I'll go listen to another 2 more videos. You somehow know in your heart, you're wasting your time to go and look at those videos. You're ready. If you're not ready now, you never will be ready. And that's why these self-help companies actually say that it's called the self-help industry. But the self-help industry has realized they're onto a gold mine, because the people they're selling it to want one more book, one more video, one more audio, one more course, then I'm going to do it. So, well, self-help companies are not going to say, no, 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 no. We've sold you enough stuff now. It's time for you to get on with it. They're in it for commercial gain as well.
I'm wondering, while you were speaking once again, I think in pictures, most people actually do it, funny enough. But I've heard. Let's take Milieuskop, Kevin. Both of you and me were there. Okay, by the time you arrive at Milieuskop, you will know how our R1 rifle works.
Yes.
But let's say for this instance, I want to make it practical here. Let's do a G.R.O.W on the working of an R1 rifle, how to teach somebody to use it. Now I'm the student. Now I'm standing there. The sergeant's got the rifle there. And let's say I don't know how it works. So the way I figured it out is, what's my goal here? My goal would be what do I want? I want to learn to use this rifle. Why? Because I'm going to shoot terrorists, or at least defend myself.
Yes.
And then what would be the results? Well, the best result, I become a crack shot with this thing. I can take it apart, hanging upside down like we used to do, in the dark, eyes closed. I can service that rifle. What's the worst one? I can't use it because it's got a stoppage and I can't clear it because I don't really know how to do it. Or I've forgotten something. That's the worst result for me. Now, what's the obstacles here? Well, I actually have to get hold of this weapon to do it. The more I work with this weapon, the better. It will that is the muscle memory coming in.
Correct.
And who's going to do it? The sergeant and me. We're gonna do this.
Yes.
Am I correct in summing this up? I'm trying to make
exactly like that.
This is not an abstract thing. You can do this in your own life.
Yeah, because this is how the brain works as well. So, it's any ambitious goal, just go for it and you'll see straight away it works. What I can't guarantee you is whether you'll pursue it. That's up to you.
Yeah, that's totally up to the individual, and we don't take responsibility for that. But look, if you're ambitious, it's not just going to happen. You have to do something. I mean, look at the channel. We have to bring the channel, the programs out, the episodes out.
Yes.
We have to sit down with the right people. We have to get the right people, and to bring a product out which people actually want to look at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know someone who was moving from one city to the next, and the daughter was having some problems, like 13, 14-year-old, was having some problems adapting and that. They sat there saying, okay, let's have a look now. So at your previous school, you were capable and confident. Yes, mommy. Good. So now you're at the new school. Okay, and you now need to adapt, etc. So what you need to do is you need to just commit for a short period of time and go through a period where, you're a little bit uneasy. Okay, there's going to be a little bit of fear, but you don't have to worry. And you just need to hang in there with strong enough commitment. You'll come out the other side and you will regain what you had at the old school. And then, after a while, the person sat down and said, you know what, mommy? This is fantastic now because I know every time I have this problem, I just go back to the formula. The brain loves it. It's the same with G.R.O.W. I'm hitting some obstacles, okay, in my life. So let me just sit down now and set my goal, set my result. I know I've done this many times before, and I just need to put all my energy and all my focus on this process. And through it you go, especially when you get the knack of reframing the how. So just stay out of the how trap, especially when you're setting ambitious goals.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because the more you see how, the higher the mountain becomes and the more the excuses.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. It's not bad. You're not a bad person, but that's how life is.
Yep. If you're setting mediocre goals where you're capable and confident and that, well, maybe you can get through life not having to. And, I had a guy that reached out to me via LinkedIn, and he had listened to these videos, and he said, well, I can't hurt. And then he went on to give me like a long message of he had a textile business factory up there somewhere near Pietermaritzburg. And he had about 27 people working for him and his factory. And his wife does all the admin and that, and he's more like, in the factory itself. And he was having lots of issues with the staff and that. So he's now closed the factory down, and he's working from home, and he's doing some sort of importing. And it's almost like he was going on to like say, well, now you explain to me how do I who and all of that. And then I realized the guy, obviously, he could have even been traumatized from this event of him closing the factory down and that. So probably what he's doing is he's just taking it out on the who. Not me, just taking it out on the who. I went back to him and said, well, why don't you have a look what you and your wife are doing at home and just take some small little jobs that you would prefer not to be doing, or small little jobs that your wife would be preferring not to do. And go onto these workstations like Uplands and that, and put the job description up there and spend $20 and see how someone runs with that job that you're wanting done. The minute you do a couple of that, you're back in the business or who. Well, when he came back a day later, it wasn't that little bit of advice that I gave him that changed him. I think what it actually was is he had rethought the reasons behind why he was writing to me. I think he was just probably pissed off with what happened at the factory. But now he's hopefully back on track, because now he can start to who in the cloud. He needs Excel spreadsheets done. He needs this done. Wife doesn't like doing it. He can't do it. He can get now up to Uplands, and he can get himself a person there at $8 an hour.
I think that's a very important thing you said here, because the who does not need to be a person which you personally know.
No, not at all.
It can also be a machine or a tool or like somebody who's got expert knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, I met a guy once at the coffee shop, and we got chatting, and he's a highly qualified guy, and he used to work here in the city, the financial district, and he was an actuary, and he advises like pension schemes, etc., of their funds. So he decided to go out on his own, and I said, how does it actually work? He said, well, if I go out, what I'll do is I'll rent an office there in the city and get going, etc., etc. He said, but I just decided I'm going to work from home. And he knows how to leverage. And basically went up onto these well-known platforms like Uplands and all of that. And he found a actuary in Johannesburg, actuary in Pakistan, and an actuary somewhere else. So he finds the work, and then he gets them to do it, and then they report back to him, and he then presents into the city. They don't work for him. He doesn't have to rent extra workspace in the city. And he's clearly making use of, a currency that's to his advantage. And they are where they are, and he can pay them well because they've been paid in sterling. So it's a win-win for everyone. But there's too many people out there that think there's no one else out there that can do it like them. And look how sensible he was. You know, that relationship between him and his client in the city, you know, the feedback, the report that goes back, the presentation, whatever it is. Okay, he does it. Sorry, I was going to move me here. He's got to do it, or he wants to do it, but all the hard stuff. And it's not, he said to me, it's not just the hard, mundane stuff. He said, no, Kev, it's gone way beyond that. He said, they're doing the clever stuff for me as well, where I'm actually in awe of what they're putting in the report. So this is not just all about getting low-skill, cheap labor. This is actually hooing people that are better than you. I think someone was, I think it was a tech guy or who once said, the best people don't work for you. Now, straight away, many will see that as a negative. Oh, you know, you've been negative towards your staff and that. No, I'm not even discussing this thought with them. I'm just saying to you, the best people don't work for us. The best people are out there because there's 7 billion people. So the normal question, did you get some clarity today on G.R.O.W?
Yes, thank you.
Right. Do you feel confident that you can use G.R.O.W?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And if you look at the formula, would you say it's a new capability that you can use in your organization?
Yes, it opens a lot of avenues now. Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, as normal, all of this stuff is for free. However, down at the bottom, we have got the links to my Veterans Association 3-2 Battalion. And I can assure you now, you know, a lot of veterans are going through a lot of hard times for whatever reasons. So, you know, if you've got something to donate, we don't want it, but please do support the bank account down at the bottom. There we go, Chris. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I think we came to the end now.
We certainly have.
It's been a fascinating journey. I remember when you first said to me, we can do this. I didn't realize how much I was going to learn. And I want to thank you, Kevin. I know there's a lot of people out there who would like to thank you as well. Just write us a letter, say thank you, besides the donation, of course, that too. But I've learned a lot. I've seen the channel grow because of it. And I'm quite excited about the future because we can use this in other stuff as well. You know, this is almost like a life essence, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think if we were sitting there at Buffalo now and we get a signal, get ready. Right, so what's the goal for our bush trip? What do we want? Why do we want it? Okay, boys, what type of results we're looking at? Right, what are the obstacles that are holding us back? Right, who's going to help us with all of this? Our preparation to go to the bush would be a lot easier. I know we had checklists, but you know, checklists are a little bit different to utilizing your brain in an intellectual and creative way.
Let us say there's somebody here, Kevin, who wants to introduce this to his company. Can they contact you?
Yes. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't do this commercially, so I'm restricted, obviously, for time and that. But no, reach out to me and we can make a plan. You know, almost like I can give that person a bit of training, and then they can go off and do it. You know, I'm not going to go and train any company.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. All this stuff is what we use in our business and what I've used in my previous business. So I'm not a trainer or a coach. I'm just a practitioner of things that I've learned. And now I've packaged it for myself. And in the last 18 quarters, I've been using it in a very, very constructive manner. Prior to that, it was loose. But now I've tightened it up, and I'm finding if I just stay within my 8 freedoms, I'm taking care of myself from health, money, time, etc.
So the way forward here is that we will meet again with midterms.
At the beginning of each quarter and midterms.
Yes, that's right. And we will also, at some stage, probably bring in our psychologist.
Yes. Because there are some people that, when they use G.R.O.W, something might just trigger there that goes beyond, normal type of stuff where they feel, I've reached a stage now where this is upsetting me. And then you speak to a guy like Frans. He loves working with people that are getting upset about things. Because they say it's a lot easier to change someone who's upset about something. I'm upset that I'm a procrastinator. Oh, he loves working with that. Versus the next person saying, yeah, I'm a procrastinator, but I can live with it. Well, he can't create magic for you.
Yeah, you got to want it, or you want to change. I mean, if you don't play it together, we can't help you. It's that simple.
Exactly.
Internet, we've come to the end of this, but it's not the end, if you understand what I mean. I say again that at Legacy, and I believe in Kevin's part as well, we do have a desire to help. We have a desire to assist. We know that there's hard times. We know that some people, to no fault of their own, are struggling to cope. And I believe in my heart that this series of entrepreneurship can really be of assistance. So I'm saying again to you, Kevin, thank you. You've done a wonderful thing here. To the rest of you, just follow it. Start at the beginning. You have this wonderful gift now. You can go back to a previous episode, and you can even download it. And you can then look at it and practice, keep on practicing, keep on implementing, and then you will be there. Kevin, some final words from you before I say goodbye?
Well, I would say that the most important thing that works for me is the x-axis and the y-axis. Commitment and courage. And when you map yourself, you want to be in the top right quadrant, rather than being down in the bottom left quadrant, where you're nafi, acting like a jippo hut, all those type of things. My advice is just get that muscle memory to live a life up in the top quadrant. And if you find you're battling to get there, just keep persevering. If it's upsetting you that you want to be there, but you're not getting there, then reach out to Frans. Because maybe there's just something that needs to be tweeted to get you on your road. And after all, great sports people are going to psychologists to help them. Why would they be doing it? They're no fools. Sometimes in life, you just need that extra help. But the formula is there.
I will leave Frans's details here at the description for you as well.
Fantastic.
And then I say goodbye to all of you until we meet again. God bless and be blessed.